The day Coca-Cola changed a war, World War II turned the entire world into fire, smoke, and destruction. Europe's cities were being reduced to rubble. Roads that once carried families, trade, and life were now being crushed under heavy tanks. In frozen trenches, exhausted soldiers sat silently, waiting for the next attack, while distant explosions lit up the dark skies. Everywhere there was chaos, the sound of sirens, gunfire, collapsing buildings, and constant death. But inside this overwhelming destruction, something unexpectedly simple appeared on the battlefield: Coca-Cola. For American soldiers fighting far away from home, opening a cold Coke bottle became more than just drinking something refreshing. Even the sound of the bottle cap opening created a strange moment of peace. For a few seconds, everything else disappeared. The battlefield faded, and in its place came memories: home, family dinners, summer days, baseball games, and peaceful American streets untouched by war. It was never just a drink. It was an emotional escape hidden inside a glass bottle. And what made it even more surprising was that Coca-Cola was not randomly present there. It was part of a larger, silent mission. The company wanted every American soldier to have access to Coke, no matter where they were deployed across the world. Slowly, Coca-Cola supply chains began moving closer and closer to battle zones. Factories, bottling systems, and distribution networks started appearing wherever American forces went. This marked the beginning of a transformation that would turn Coca-Cola from a simple beverage company into a global cultural force. When the Pearl Harbor attack happened in 1941, everything changed. The United States entered World War II, and overnight, the entire nation turned into a war production machine. Civilian factories that once made everyday goods shifted completely toward producing weapons, tanks, aircraft, and military equipment. Cities became industrial engines, working day and night for survival. In the middle of this massive shift, Coca-Cola's president, Robert Woodruff, made a decision that seemed almost impossible at the time. He declared that every American soldier, no matter where they were in the world, should be able to buy Coca-Cola for just 5 cents. At first, this idea sounded unrealistic, almost impossible to achieve. The war was spread across continents: Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Pacific Islands. Supply ships were constantly under attack from enemy submarines. Even essential supplies like food, medicine, and ammunition struggled to reach soldiers safely. In such a situation, delivering soft drinks seemed unnecessary and even foolish to many military officials. But Coca-Cola understood something deeper that many others underestimated. War is not only fought with weapons, it is fought with morale. A soldier who is physically tired can still fight. But a soldier who loses hope becomes ineffective no matter how strong his weapon is. Fear, loneliness, and emotional exhaustion can destroy an army from within faster than bullets ever could. Coca-Cola recognized this psychological truth and turned it into a strategy. The company partnered directly with the U.S. military. Special Coca-Cola technical officers were sent alongside troops into war zones. Portable bottling systems were developed so that Coke could be produced close to where soldiers were stationed. Instead of relying on long supply chains from America, Coca-Cola created mobile production systems that could operate in extreme conditions. Gradually, Coca-Cola stopped being just a drink. It became emotional support in physical form. For soldiers trapped in muddy trenches or isolated on distant islands, holding a cold Coca-Cola bottle felt like holding a small piece of home. It was a reminder that life still existed beyond war, that peace, family, and normalcy had not completely disappeared. Letters sent by soldiers during the war often mentioned these small moments of relief. Even a few seconds of comfort helped reduce stress after days or weeks of continuous fear and danger. As the war continued, military commanders began noticing something unusual. Whenever Coca-Cola shipments arrived at camps, the entire environment changed. Soldiers became more relaxed. Conversations became lighter. Even discipline improved because emotional tension decreased. Coca-Cola was not just satisfying thirst, it was triggering memory. Each sip acted like a bridge between the battlefield and home. It reminded soldiers of their past lives, family dinners, school days, holidays, and peaceful evenings that now felt like another world. Today, psychology describes this effect as comfort association. It is when the human brain connects certain objects or experiences with feelings of safety, happiness, and emotional stability. During wartime, this effect became extremely powerful, because morale directly influences performance. A mentally stable soldier performs better under pressure, reacts faster, and maintains discipline. But a soldier who is emotionally broken loses strength even before the battle begins. Without realizing it, Coca-Cola had created a psychological tool that strengthened armies not through force, but through emotion. And because of this, Coca-Cola slowly transformed into something more than a drink. It became a symbol of identity, a representation of America itself. As World War II progressed, Coca-Cola expanded far beyond the United States. It followed American troops into Europe, Africa, and the Pacific Islands. Wherever soldiers moved, Coca-Cola tried to move with them. To make this possible, the company built portable bottling plants near war zones. Engineers and technicians traveled alongside military units to ensure production never stopped. In some cases, Coca-Cola supply routes became part of military logistics, treated almost like essential resources such as fuel or food. This meant that Coca-Cola was no longer just a civilian product. It had become part of the war infrastructure. And when the war ended, something very important happened. The bottling plants and distribution systems built during wartime did not disappear. They remained in those countries. This allowed Coca-Cola to continue operating globally, even in regions that had never seen the drink before the war. For many people outside America, Coca-Cola was introduced through American soldiers. It was not just a new beverage, it was a symbol of modern life, change, and global connection. This moment defined Coca-Cola's long-term strategy. Familiarity creates loyalty. World War II was not only a physical war, it was also a war of perception. Countries used propaganda to shape how people viewed them. Posters, films, and radio broadcasts were used to influence emotions and public opinion, and Coca-Cola fit perfectly into this environment. When American soldiers entered liberated cities, they often shared Coca-Cola with civilians. After years of destruction, hunger, and fear, receiving a cold, sweet drink felt almost unreal. It created a powerful emotional contrast: destruction on one side, comfort on the other. That contrast shaped perception. Coca-Cola slowly became associated with America itself. It was no longer just a drink. It represented prosperity, freedom, and modern living. Advertisements reinforced this idea by showing smiling families, happy gatherings, and ideal lifestyles connected to Coca-Cola. The message became simple and powerful: America equals comfort. And people absorbed this message emotionally rather than logically. This is how Coca-Cola built cultural influence without military force. After World War II ended, many believed peace had finally arrived. But instead, a new global conflict began: the Cold War. Unlike the previous war, this was not fought with armies or direct battles. It was a struggle of ideologies. On one side stood the United States and its allies. On the other stood the Soviet Union and communist nations. And in this new conflict, Coca-Cola once again became significant. In communist countries, Coca-Cola was seen as more than a beverage. It represented Western capitalism, consumer culture, and foreign influence. Because of this, it was restricted in many regions. Where Coca-Cola was banned, its popularity increased, because forbidden things always become more attractive. People began to see Coca-Cola as a symbol of freedom, modern lifestyle, and Western identity. Meanwhile, in capitalist countries, it was already deeply embedded in daily life, present in restaurants, cinemas, streets, and homes. And from here, it evolved into a global cultural weapon without a single bullet fired. By the 1950s and 1960s, Coca-Cola had spread across almost every major country in the world. Its logo became one of the most recognized symbols globally, appearing on billboards, city streets, restaurants, and entertainment venues. People chose Coca-Cola not only for taste, but for what it represented: lifestyle, identity, and connection to a modern global world. This accelerated globalization in ways few companies had ever achieved. Its influence was no longer limited to war or politics, and everything traced back to World War II, the moment when Coca-Cola first built its global presence. World War II is often remembered through tanks, bombs, and battles. But in reality, wars are not only won with weapons. Coca-Cola understood this better than almost anyone. Gata, a simple bottle, gave soldiers comfort on the battlefield. It gave civilians a symbol of recovery, kata, and it gave governments a tool of soft power that shaped global perception. In the end, Coca-Cola did not conquer the world through force. And perhaps the most powerful weapon in history is always the one that cannot be seen, but can only be felt. Coca-Cola did not just become a drink. It became a global story. And that story began in the middle of a war.